It's Ravens week. It's game day. It's Monday night, the day of the game. We are excited on both sides of the field here. Ravens need this game. Browns need this game. And you didn't think. I know you guys did not think I would go an entire Ravens week and not bring on my guy, Ingraven. Ingraven, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Good. This is a game I'm anxious for. I'm extremely nervous about it because it could obviously go either way, especially with it being two teams that's super familiar with each other. But I appreciate you having me on, though. Thank you for that, man.
No problem. So just so everybody knows, what's at stake for the Ravens here, and what do you think the Ravens' outlook is if they cannot win this game?
Man, the season is possibly at stake. If the Ravens were to lose, it's not over completely, but it makes their situation, which is their own fault because they got themselves to 7-5. It's nobody else's fault but theirs, but it makes their situation to get into the playoffs that much harder, especially because their losses came to the Titans, the Steelers, and the Patriots. So those right there were four AFC teams. And the fifth loss, man, yeah, we just been losing so much. I forgot who the fifth loss was to. That's how bad it's gotten, man. This has been a crazy sort of an anomaly of a season for obviously more reasons than one. But this thing has just been wild. Wow, I really forgot who the last team we lost to. Who actually won
Tennessee?
Was it Tennessee? No, I said Tennessee. That was an overtime loss. The Steelers 2 times, and we lost to the Patriots. I cannot think of it right now. Wow. I guess it's like blocked out of my head because it's just been a frustrating season.
Yeah, definitely. So with that being said, what do you think is behind this season going just so left for the Baltimore Ravens? I mean, you came into the season thinking 14-2 last year, probably something similar. Mm-hmm. Now you're sitting here with about 5 losses and hoping to win a game against Cleveland to be able to keep your playoff hopes alive in December. So what went wrong with this team and what can still go right with them?
Oh, boy. I think the biggest problem this year has been the offense. It's been the offense. It's been the inconsistencies of the offense. It's been play calling. It's been execution. It's been just a mix of a lot. One of the things that I look around the league and see like Baker Mayfield, he obviously before the injury, he had Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. They brought back Hollywood Higgins, and he has this, and they signed Austin Hooper. There was a talk of possibly Njoku getting traded, but he obviously stayed too. And then Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you see this plethora of weapons on the offense. You look at Kyler Murray and you see, of course, Larry Fitzgerald. Then they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. They got Isabella. They got Kirk. They doing their thing over there. Josh Allen. He had Cole Beasley and John Brown last year. Then they say, you know what, let's one up this thing and let's go get a Stephon Diggs. So I think that's been one of the biggest problems with the Ravens going from last year to this year is the lack of really providing Lamar, really investing in Lamar Jackson with a plethora of weapons. Because, and that's not the only reason they've been struggling, but when you look at that, you see all these young quarterbacks, these second, third-year quarterbacks getting all these nice, fancy weapons, and the Ravens like, okay, there you go, Lamar, you can have Dez. Look at you, Dez, a guy that ain't played in like 3 years. And while Dez, he has had a good impact on the team for the little amount that he's played, still is Ravens, this has been their sort of their Achilles heel, so to speak, for their entirety, is that they don't really invest in the offense. And they see that comes through at some of the worst times. So that's been a part of it. Play calling has been suspect. Of course, Lamar Jackson, him and Greg Roman, they had their little back and forth, their little mini feud or whatnot, where they were pretty much calling each other out. Lamar saying the plays are predictable. And, I mean, they are. Like, a lot of us Ravens fans will be at home watching the games and whatnot, and we'll know exactly what the Ravens are getting to run because that's just how they do. And I don't know if that's a mix of us just really knowing the Ravens like that or the play calling just really being predictable. But sometimes I think with the offensive coordinator, with Greg Roman, one of his biggest issues, he's not even the bad play calling, but the situational play calling is bad. Because there'll be different situations throughout the game where the Ravens just, the offense, the play calling will just be pitiful. there's also been a lack of really establishing a number one back. Ravens, of course, last year, they absolutely destroyed every single rushing record that there was, and ever will be. But this year, what they've been trying to do, especially since they added J.K. Dobbins, he's the only new guy from last year in the running backs room. They've been trying to literally feed everybody and not go with the hot hand. They would give some carries to Mark Ingram, give some to J.K. Dobbins, give some to Gus Edwards, and now Justice Hill been in the mix a tiny bit too. But they wouldn't go with the hot hand. So when you try to force feed everybody, then you don't let anybody get off to a good start. Lamar, there's been inconsistencies with him, and just some of the passes, some of just not even the mechanics. I think it's just he was playing a lot of prove it ball throughout this year. I think in the Cowboys game, and the Eagles game, those were two of his best games in my opinion, to where he wasn't doing a lot of the second guessing, because we've seen that so much throughout this year. Lamar has been doing so much second guessing, and he just hasn't been playing his game. But when he plays his game, he does his thing. The offensive line has also been a problem. The offensive line, even before the injuries that we had, before Ronnie Stanley went out, the offensive line, that was a big issue. So to sum it all up, it's been a mix of things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So what do you see that can get this Ravens team back to where, or at least close to where the Raven fans want it to be? Is there anything that's encouraging you recently with this team?
If Lamar will play his game, and like Greg Roman said a couple of weeks ago, but we still haven't really seen it yet. And I mean, you could say we saw it in the Cowboys game, but not that I can't count that, because it is an NFL team, but it is a 3-9 NFL team. Greg Roman said a couple of weeks ago that this team, when Nick Boyle went down with the injury, Greg Roman said that this team would forge a new identity on offense. And we have not seen what this Ravens identity is yet. So if what will really encourage me and give me, and I'm sure give the Ravens and the fans and the team a lot of confidence, if they can establish their identity. And what perfect week to do it. What better week to do it than against the Cleveland Browns?
Definitely. So jumping into that, you're coming into this game. The Browns just had probably one of their strongest performances of the season against a team in the Tennessee Titans that a lot of people thought was pretty good. Browns coming in, playing well, Monday Night Football. Where do you think the Ravens are with this game, and how are they looking at it? And also, how's the fan base looking at it? Is this a fan base that is taking Cleveland very serious, or is this a fan base that thinks, hey, we beat them 38-6, we get this win here, we're right back on track?
I think it's been a good mix of both. Me personally, I'm taking it all the way serious, because I know that it can take some teams longer to get into a rhythm than others. And of course, with the Browns, this offseason, being the offseason that it was, you get a new head coach, new GM, new system, that's all getting implemented. And not that that's an excuse as to why the game went the way that it went in week one, but that was week one. That was just one game. And the Cleveland Browns have only lost 2 other times after that. So they've been handling business, been taking care of business, and been doing their thing, especially Baker Mayfield. He's cut way down on the turnovers. And that run game has just been, it's been going crazy. So with us as Ravens fans, we're looking at this like, this is it. This is it. This is, and it's crazy because this could be the season. This could be the season. This game right here could be everything. So Ravens, there's a lot of pressure on the Ravens. And John Harbaugh, he already acknowledged that the Cowboys game, that was a must-win game. So if that was a must-win game, then this is definitely a must-win game. So it's a lot of pressure on the Ravens to come out there and take care of business. So we'll see how it goes.
So what on this Browns team, you as a Raven fan, what does this Browns team do both on the offensive defensive side of the ball that kind of gives you the most concern about the Ravens' ability to win this game?
Myles Garrett. Our offensive line has been a big yikes all season long. Like I said, even before the injuries. But Myles Garrett, he is very concerned about him and how he can just wreck a game. And when he gets hot, he gets hot. So hopefully he doesn't against the Ravens. But that is probably the biggest thing that concerns me on defense for the Browns. And it's like with him, the thing about Myles Garrett, the worst part about it is that you know what he's capable of. You know what he can do. You know you have to pay extra close attention to him. But even though you do all those things, he can still get the job done. So that's been super frustrating, and I'm not really looking forward to that part of the game. And on offense, for the Browns, it would be Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And it's crazy because in the first Browns and Ravens game, even though it was 38-6, I believe, whatever the score was, Chubb and Hunt were doing a great job on the ground. Mm-hmm. I think they averaged over like 4 or 5 yards a carry. They were doing a really good job on the ground, both of them. But the Browns had to get away from that because while Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, they were doing a good job running the ball, the Browns, their drives kept stalling out. So the Browns weren't scoring, but the Ravens were scoring. So the score, it got further and further, and the Browns had to just pass the ball. So that made them one-dimensional. So it took Chubb and Hunt out of the game. So that is one thing that I'm concerned about too, are those two in the Ravens run defense. Brandon Williams, he just made his return last week. Calais Campbell also made his return last week. Now, Brandon Williams, he looked himself, but Calais Campbell looked like he was still maybe a little out of shape. He didn't really even play as many snaps as he usually does. So his snaps were limited. So that is something that I am a bit concerned about heading into this game, especially against those two running backs and a Browns offensive line that's been light years ahead of what they were in past years.
Definitely. So let's talk about that element of it, the pass rush for the Baltimore Ravens. I always say on paper, this defensive line should be incredible for the Baltimore Ravens. The names you have there, Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell, and Yeek Ngakoue, and you got Matt Judon there. But the production from a pass rushing standpoint just has not been there for the Baltimore Ravens. What do you think the issue is, and do you think this is an issue that they can fix by Monday night?
What I'm hoping the issue is that Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell, with them having been out the past couple of games, hopefully that will be the issue. Do I think it can be fixed by Monday night? Oh, I hope so. I'm not really counting on it because pass rush has been an issue both before and after the Yeek Ngakoue trade. But hopefully with all the boys getting back together, everybody being healthy again, that'll contribute because Matt Judon, he missed the last game because he was on the COVID list. They took him out for that. So he was gone. He missed out of that one. And Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell, they missed the last couple of games due to injury and also being on that list as well. So with this game, I am with Yeek Ngakoue especially. He's been getting some pressure here and there. He'll get very close, but he won't get the sack. But he's been getting pressure. But I'm just hoping that as a collective unit, they can gel a bit more and they can just start closing a bit more. In this game, I think pressure right up the middle is going to be very important just to try to get Baker Mayfield flustered. And also, I think Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams can be huge in this game with the batted passes, too. That's something that I'm going to be looking for from those two because this is a tough challenge, man.
Yeah, I look at the history of the Browns versus the Ravens. Obviously, it's leaning towards the Ravens side. The Browns have not had a good start to the first 2 decades of their existence here. But I'm wondering this, and I wonder what you think about this. Is this the most important and the biggest Browns-Ravens game there's been in these two franchises' history?
No, I don't think it's the biggest one. I mean, like I would even put the because I was gonna say the game a few years ago in Week 17 in both Lamar and Baker Mayfield's rookie season, because that was for the Ravens to not only get in the playoffs but win a division. And then that game had implications on the Steelers' playoffs hopes too, because if the Browns would have won, and then the Steelers would have got in as long as they won that game, which they did. But at the same time, the Browns, they weren't playing for anything in that game. Mm-hmm. They weren't playing for a playoff spot. It was only the Ravens could get in, and that was it. The Browns could not get in. But now with this game, the Browns, if everything was all said and done right now, the Browns would be in, and the Ravens would be on the outside looking in. But with this game being to keep Ravens season alive, ooh, I didn't think about this till you mentioned it. Now because I knew this was big, but so it is definitely one of the bigger games in recent history for sure.
And I'm pretty sure nobody expected this situation on Monday Night Football to be flipped like this. I mean, I remember thinking week 14, it's probably going to be a big week for the Browns to be able to make sure they can make the playoffs. And it's kind of the reverse. The Browns could lose this game, win the game against the Giants, and still clinch the playoffs, But for the Ravens, they absolutely need this game. That's going to be interesting to see. One of the things I'm interested in this game is that this has to be a playoff intensity, at least for the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens have played in some playoff games. Now, they haven't won them, but, they have played in them. The Browns have not. Do you think that's going to give the Ravens an edge? And how do you think the Browns, from your perspective, are going to respond to the Ravens giving that kind of playoff energy?
That's a really good question. I think last week's game sort of told a story with that, because last week the Browns they went against the Titans team. Both teams were sitting at 8-3, so you had the same record. Both teams are fighting for a playoff position. Again, both teams right now would both be in if everything ended right now. And the Browns, while they did jump out to a huge lead, they let that lead sort of slip away, but they did end up taking care of business. And that's been one thing with the Browns this season. They've gotten out to these big leads, but then in some of the games they sort of let them slip away. But then they close it out at the last second. So with them operating like that, that may show like it goes in their favor, because they've obviously been closing a lot more games than they haven't been. And with the Ravens, that's been their problem this year, has been closing. Because whether the Ravens have had a lead or whether they're trying to come back from being down, whatever it's been, they've had a lot of trouble closing out the close games. All of their losses, the one that I had forgot earlier was against the Chiefs. It was in week 3 where they absolutely got pummeled at M&T Bank Stadium. So maybe my mind just wanted to forget that game. But with all of the Ravens' losses, besides the one to the Chiefs, all of them were games where the Ravens had an opportunity to win at the very end and to close it out. The loss to the Titans, they lost to them in overtime, and they even got the ball first in overtime and still lost the game. They went 3-and-out right away. The loss to the Steelers, there was just so many different opportunities. Even though Lamar wasn't playing and RG3 was starting and Trace McSorley finished, they still missed a lot of opportunities, and they could have won that game. They didn't lose that game because of a lack of personnel. They lost that game because it was just a lot of poor decisions. The game against the Patriots, they had an opportunity to get a game-winning drive in that one, but they came up short. And the game against the Steelers, the first game against the Steelers, there was just so many turnovers. But then even with all the turnovers that Lamar had, they still had a chance to get a game-winning drive, but they ended up coming up short. So the Ravens they've had trouble closing. So even with the Ravens, their experience in the playoffs, this Ravens team, with their current experience in the playoffs, I don't really think it does much favors for them, because in the playoffs, this Ravens team, they haven't been able to close. And in this regular season, this Ravens team, they haven't been able to close. But they do have that sense of urgency, because again, this is everything. The Ravens playoffs have already started. I know that's that sort of cheesy cliche saying, the playoffs start now. But for the Ravens, it really did, because if they don't win against the Browns, not that it's over, but you already need help, but you're going to need even more help. And you better hope everybody around you really starts collapsing as far as the teams and their quality of play, because that will be the only way that the Ravens get in. If they win out, they should be straight. But if they don't win against the Browns, then it just makes it that much tougher. So they are in this game. They're going to have to find a way to close a whole lot better.
Definitely. All right. So the last thing I'll ask you is, as a Ravens fan going into this Monday Night Football game, so much on the line tonight, what is the one phrase, word, or sentence that describes how you're feeling about the Ravens going into this?
Nervous would be the word. And And nervous because of and just to put it in a phrase, nervous because of the lack of consistency, nervous because of the inconsistencies. There have been inconsistencies on offense, like we talked about before, but there's also been inconsistencies with the defense, with the secondary specifically, because sometimes they have these lapses where they'll just be getting beat, like straight up. Whether it's Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, they will just be getting beat, and we even saw it like last week in the game. And I know Andy Dalton, he is familiar with the Ravens. He's familiar with their defense. He's familiar with playing at M&T Bank Stadium. But Andy Dalton, he was lighting them up a lot. Like, now I know he does have some nice quality receivers and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Gallup, but inconsistencies would be that would be a big word for me and a big phrase with so many inconsistencies that the Ravens have had all season.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Ingraven, thank you for coming on. Let them know where to find you.
Oh, this team, keep it clean. You can find me. My channel is Ingraven Vids. Instagram, Twitter, everything is Ingraven Vids. Anytime you need to search me up, you can look up that, or you can look up Team Keep It Clean, and we'll pop up. But I appreciate you having me on.
No problem, man. Look forward to watching this game, and make sure check it out. I'm pretty sure you're doing a live stream while you're watching this. Yeah, Graven's going to be doing a live watch party. I'm going to be doing a live watch party.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, it's going to be something. So no matter what happens, ladies and gentlemen, good or bad, you will get the reaction that you are looking for if you keep your eyes peeled on Ingraven and I's channel. So, Monday Night Football, huge game, possibly the biggest Browns-Ravens game there has been since these two franchises has essentially existed or split into, I know they used to be the same franchise, but ever since they kind of both existed in the same world, it is going to be a sight to be held. And hopefully this is just the start of a new era for this rivalry and, this division. So hopefully good things to come. But Ingraven, again, thank you, man.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate you.